Hi everyone. It's been a while. I know I haven't uploaded anything since a long time. So let's work on it and change that. So today I'm going to start a new series regarding to Python and scripting with Python. If you remember, about I think 3 years ago, when I uploaded the video on how to build your lab in Google Cloud for our cybersecurity meetups, I also mentioned that there's a huge demand for things related to automation, scripting, Python, and so on. So nothing has changed. There's still a huge demand for exactly the same. So I think that's a topic that we can use to give it a priority. And this is what we will do. So just to explain how we will do that or what the approach is and why this is different than everything you will find on YouTube, because as you know, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of amazing resources regarding to Python of people who are very good at explaining, that are much more knowledgeable in Python than me. But the approach that we will do is a little bit different, because I see when I talk to most people that I know, everybody knows that scripting is important. Everybody knows that automation is important. Everybody has started at a certain point to learn Python, either by watching videos on YouTube, buying a course, going through Udemy or whatever. The problem comes when they go through these courses, they learn how to print things, they learn how to loop over things, they learn an if else and so on. At a certain moment, they want to implement it in their work. They want to implement it and use it to automate things in their job. And this is the whole goal of learning Python in the first place. But they never reach that goal, and they never understand how they can implement it in their job. And this is a gap between learning Python and being able to use it in a practical way and just build your own scripts. And this gap is what I want to bridge. So, but instead of just telling you, oh, you have to a requisite that you have to understand Python, we will just go over this session, because most people maybe need a refresher of Python. So we go little by little without any prior Python knowledge. We will build up our Python knowledge and learn the PANOS API, which is the Palo Alto Networks operating system API, which is a very popular firewall that we will use to automate firewall deployments, get firewall configurations, and so on. So the whole idea is each session we will learn some basic concepts of Python, some basic concepts of the PANOS API, and how to use it. And little by little, you will build up this knowledge. We won't go, the first sessions, of course, will have like basic stuff, but we will be able to use that to get an output by the end of the session, to have something achieved something by the end of the session. And little by little, we go to the more advanced concepts until you understand how to use the how to use Python to script things, to call things from the API. Of course, the same way that we are using it to automate a Palo Alto Networks firewall can be used to do other things with API. So other vendors, it doesn't even have to be a security or network vendor. It can be anything that has an API. Because the reason or the way we will approach this as well is from a practical standpoint. The idea is, the saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, right? So I can tell you, like, just type this, and this is the API, and you have to type this, and you see, you have achieved a little script. This is not my goal. My goal is to learn you how you have to or how you can use the knowledge that you learned to research your own things, because what we're scripting today or tomorrow or next week, it's not something that you maybe need on at your job. And as I mentioned, we start with PANOS API, but maybe you need it for something else. So I will teach you how to go through the documentation. I will teach you how to search and look up things. And this will help you to develop this mindset of, okay, so I need to do an API call to get X. Where can I find X? How do I go through the documentation to get this information? And this is the best way to learn it, because This way, I teach you how to fish and not give you just a script and say, now you can get this from the firewall. Now you can push that to the firewall. And this is the whole idea, because this is more realistic. And in reality, if you're scripting, you don't know everything. You don't know all API calls. You don't know everything that can be done with a firewall. You have to go through the documentation. You have to experiment and so on. You will face errors as well that you have to fix. So this is the way that we will do it from a more practical standpoint. Some house rules. First of all, you have some lab requirements, of course, if you want to follow along. I will post in the description the lab requirements and how you can test if you're ready and your lab is ready to start the sessions with me. So if you didn't do that, just pause the video now, start deploying the lab, and then come back to finish it so that you can really do it. Because scripting and automation, it needs a hands-on mentality. It has to be in the fingers. You have to exercise, you have to practice it, and it doesn't happen by just watching a video. If you're just going to watch this video, honestly, you're wasting your time, and you could better just waste it somewhere else. So it's better. You have to do it, and this is why we will give you the requirements to build your lab, and I will post it in the video description. Another reason why we provide the lab requirements is, of course, we don't want you to test it in production. So these videos are done for you to learn in your lab, okay? Not production. You're still learning. I'm not responsible for anything that you do. You have to test it, learn it, and at a certain moment, when you feel ready, when you learned a lot, you could use it to do real things in your real production environment. But again, I'm not responsible for that. This channel is for learning only, and that's the only thing that we do here. So the question raises, why Python, right? Why would we learn Python, nothing else? So very simple. Most people that I'm targeting, or the people that ask me, are people who work in security, and these people, they're not programmers, they're not scripters. They just want to use Python to leverage automation, to leverage or to make their life easier, to reduce the time that they waste in repetitive tasks. So if this is your goal, as a security engineer, Python is the best tool. Why? It's very easy. You can make scripts quick and dirty. It's very known in the industry. So Python is now very popular, and it's not only used for scripting. So let's say I want to use one language that I can use everywhere. Let's say in the future I want to do something else. Python is amazing at that, because you want to script, you can use Python. You want to build a web app, you can use Python. You want to build an application, you can use Python. You want to go into machine learning and AI in the future, you can use Python. Automation, Python. A lot of things can be done with Python. So that makes the language, which I already mentioned, is very easy to learn and very easy to write. But at the same time, it's extremely powerful, and you can use it in multiple ways. So that's the perfect tool for us if we want to focus our attention, because again, this is not our core job. Our core job is security, administration, and so on. So if we want to invest time in a tool that does help us in that, Python is perfect. So now we come to the other question. Why will we use API? Well, Palo Alto Networks API, because I've been working a lot with Palo Alto Networks lately. So that's why Palo Alto Networks. Why the API? Because the API is a great point to start with. Because Palo Alto Networks has a library, has an SDK, and so on. We could use Terraform or Ansible to deploy things as well. But all of this is very abstract, and you have to already understand a lot of things in Python, like object-oriented programming, classes, specific syntaxes, and so on. So API is very straightforward and matches with the operational approach. So for example, if you're a network security admin and you have to create a policy on a firewall, you know that, okay, I first have to create the address object, I have to create the service objects, and then I have to create a policy and add these. So it has a step-by-step approach on how to configure things in the firewall. You could mimic the same in API, and it will be very straightforward. Also, if you have experience in Palo Alto Networks, you will see that the way that the configuration is built is in XML. So if you take a backup of a Palo Alto Networks firewall, it will be in XML. And most Palo Alto Networks administrators know how it looks like. They know how they feel. They know where everything is located in the XML file and so on. So this helps as well. So that's why we'll start with the API, because it's much more closer to the daily operations or the steps that you go through if you're configuring something.